What if the very thing that made you successful at work is also the biggest threat to your retirement?
Most retirees don't fail because of money. They fail because they cling to an identity that no longer fits.
If you don't stop holding on to that old identity the day you retire, you're going to drift into boredom, disconnection, and regret. Stay with us on this today. When I left my career, frankly, when we both left our careers on the same day in December 29th of 2018, I really felt great that weekend. Gosh, I knew I had so much freedom now. I knew that you and I could now live this retirement dream that we had at the time of travel, leisure, going out to long lunches, going to the movies, reading books, sitting on the beach and all of that. Until, after a while, that really wasn't enough. And I kept remembering what I used to do at work, leading teams, making sales, prospecting, going to networking functions. The hundreds of people that, frankly, we both knew, not only in our companies, but in Westchester County, New York at large. We were both members of the Westchester County Association, and we go to the dinners where there's 500 people. And I know we wouldn't know everybody, but we knew a lot of people. All of that ended. And then we both struggled a little bit thinking, well, who am I now? And right? Did you feel that way?
I mean, if that's where you are today, it's normal, I think, would be the best thing to say. We did great through the first weekend, but Monday morning we were both up around 5 or 5:30. We started looking for emails to check, realizing no one was emailing us anymore. And you do get a little deflated and then a little confused. So you're deflated because you're like, wow, I thought they'd really need me. You're confused because you're not really sure what to do next. And you do have all that time on your hands. And then, what I would say after deflated and confused, your next best first step would be to figure out who you are in this phase of life and lose that old identity.
And we struggled at first for sure. I mean, we're 5 years running into this company now, and we're still evolving into who we are, what we're supposed to do, how we're helping people. But we evolved, and I think that's the big thing is you have to evolve. And one of the reasons why people get this wrong is they do cling on to their old identity like we did. I was the fourth generation owner, sold the company, and then I was the branch manager of the company that now is owned by a public company.
Right. And the other thing that was hard was both of us were so career focused, family focused first, but then career focused. And really, we determined or measured our value on our productivity.
Right.
Everything was about the goals, the metrics, the teams, all of those things. And it's hard to step away from that and figure out, how do you value yourself now?
Yeah, how do you bring value to your relationships? How do you bring value to your kids, to the world? I mean, it's different. So, working 40, 50 hours a week, and that's where you focus all your value. We understand why so many people get it wrong by clinging onto that identity because it's comfortable. But here's what
I was going to say. Well, I think the new way to think about it is you are more than your work. You're more than your work that you do today, and you're more than the work that you did years ago.
Yeah, your value and my value comes from our character.
Right.
Whether we're doing a YouTube channel or not, it's really valuing who you are as a human and your purpose. And I think we're going to talk more about that in this video, but really it's just your value is so much more as a human being. And the other thing where people get wrong, I would say, and have to rethink it is this freedom that we get, this newfound freedom of 40 plus hours of free time that come our way, it needs structure. If you can put structure around your morning, your half day, every week, when you start to build structure, then you start to win big in this phase of life.
And we do hear from a lot of subscribers that structure is not the thing that they want in retirement. And I would say, I suggest trying it without structure. And if you figured out a formula with no structure that still drives your purpose, your value, your identity, who you're going to be moving forward, share it with us.
Yeah.
Because structure is really what we cling to.
Right. The first point we want to talk about is stop defining yourself by your old title or your old role. And this whole thing of I used to do this, I used to do that. I used to be this, I used to be that. That's okay for a week. Well, you got to let it go.
Yeah. I think it's important to really journal about who you were, acknowledge those successes, and then really open your mind, your heart, your spirit, your sphere of influence up to who do you want to be? Who do you want to be now? What do you want to look like now? What do you want to do now? Like, it's all about creating that and reinventing yourself, which you can really do at any age.
Yeah, you want to explore roles such as a mentor, a good friend, a partner, or a creator. Create something like we've done. Just trying to find a new way to look at it instead of holding on to that old identity, because whether you like it or not, it's gone. So you need to create a new identity. My dad had his business card printed. He couldn't wait. It had his name, his phone number, and his title was retired. And I said to him, I said, Dad, that's not really a title. That's a phase of life. And we don't even use that word retired anymore.
Right.
We call it the discovery years.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first thing you want to really think about doing. What's
the next point? Honestly, we just had a conversation about this morning, because Mark has a hard time sitting still. He has a hard time being calm. He has a hard time calming his mind and not, being, doing everything ing, working, shopping, moving, running, walking, cleaning.
Sleeping. I like sleeping.
Yeah, but you're not good at
Not good at it.
And you have to find a way to stop treating your downtime as wasted time. Your free time is your currency right now. I mean, time in and of itself is your currency right now. And you have to find a way to settle into a new rhythm.
Yeah.
And while we've been at this for 5 years, you're still struggling with that.
Well, I was struggling up until this morning when I had this blinding flash of the obvious that I was taught by a mentor years ago, Roger Sitkins. He said there's this blinding flash of the obvious. You have to grab hold of that and grab it. I get up very early. And when I'm in Florida, I get up at 3:30, 3:45, which is fine because I go to the gym at 4:45. So that gives me about an hour to do some things. Well, getting up at 3:30 here, and Jody and I go to the gym together at 6:30. 6:30. That's 3 hours of me kind of doing some things in the morning. I don't have enough to fill it. So I do find myself wasting time, and I have a hard time with that. So what I've decided today is that when I get up in the morning at 3:30, the first thing I'm going to do is put on my weighted vest and I'm going to walk for 40 minutes. And that's new for me. I've never done that before, but I'm excited to try it. And I think that's the other thing, the underlying thing here is letting go of your old title and your old identity, and not worrying about wasted time. Have an open mind to try new things.
And I guess the counterpoint to that would be the next teaching point. Really take a look at your calendar, whether you're a daily calendar person, a weekly calendar person, a monthly calendar person, or you do the whole year. Figure out what works best for you and be careful not to overload your calendar or over structure your calendar. And I think in retirement, because you have so much time together, that's something that you really need to, if you do have a spouse or a partner, you really need to work together on. Because you don't want one of you saying, we just got back from pickleball, now I want to go play golf. And when we get back from golf, I want to go, shopping.
Yeah.
And we get back from shopping, I want to have the Smiths over for dinner. And we get back from the Smiths for dinner, we should plan what we're doing tomorrow. If one person is jamming, which is what we call it at our house, jamming in things into the calendar, and the other person isn't good with it, you have to make sure you find common ground on that.
Yeah, and I think it's redefining or thinking about this new free time that you have. There's a big difference between being busy and being meaningful. And busy, I talk to some people in retirement and they say, it's great. I run errands every morning and then I go to lunch with the fellows and then I play golf. There's not a lot of meaningful stuff in there. And listen, if that's the kind of discovery phase you want to live, God bless you, that's great. That's not what we want to do. We're here to tell you there's more to life than just keeping busy. There's meaningful things you can do. So we want you to think about that too.
And the next thing is kind of that overused word purpose. But you can't continue to assume purpose equals paid work. There's a lot of purpose that you can do in this discovery phase of life that is not paid work, but it's meaningful work. and it's meaningful to you, it's meaningful to the recipients of your work, whether it's an art project or an art class or a gardening project, or you're teaching math at the local high school, whatever it is that you do that you're not getting paid for, it can still help you with purpose.
I do not have a green thumb. I have a brown thumb. And I think you have a dark brown thumb. We have one live.
Not very nice.
Well, it's not we can't keep plants alive. We just can't. We were going for a walk yesterday and we walked by a house and there's a guy with a pair of shorts on. He had to be 75 years old. He had a pair of shorts on, no shirt, no shoes, and he had dirt in his feet. He was in the garden. He had dirt on his feet, on his kneecaps, and on his hands. And we stopped to chat with him, and he is so happy. It's springtime, and I'm getting all the weeds out, and I'm going to put down mulch. And I said, are you married? Do you have a wife? Oh, yeah. Is she going to let you in the house? He said, I'm not sure. She might hose me off before I go in. But this guy is getting such joy and purpose and fulfillment from working in his garden. So there are those, and I don't get that joy or fulfillment at all by working in the garden. Used to, but not anymore. So finding that little thing for you, it doesn't have to be paid work. It doesn't have to be work. It can be something, but that brings you satisfaction each day.
Absolutely. The next thing is now is a good phase. The discovery phase is a good phase to really embrace emotional reflection. And again, for a lot of people, that's journaling about, who you were, what you were proud of, maybe some bumps along the road or mistakes that you made, own them, move on, not carrying your baggage forward. And then really a solid reflection on who are you now and how peaceful is that person? If you were to write the characteristics about yourself down on a piece of paper and verify them with friends or family, would everybody be in alignment? Or are you still kind of pulling over that old identity and kind of creating, who you are now?
Yeah, and I think you also have to be truthful. We just had a moment together this morning, and during our careers, you didn't really have a lot of downtime. Whatever downtime we had, well, we didn't have any downtime.
I was going to say, when was that?
We worked, we came home, we cooked dinner, watched a little TV, and went to bed. And weekends, we would play golf maybe, but there's not a lot of downtime. When you enter the discovery phase, you have oodles and oodles of downtime. And if you have too much downtime, you can easily get yourself sideways, which I am a little sideways right now, and we talked about it this morning. This transition up into New Jersey for the summer is great, but I'm a routine person, and when my routine is out of sync and I have too much free time and I'm just sitting there wondering what am I going to do next, that's very unhealthy for me. And I've had highs and lows for the last 2 weeks. And this morning on the way to the gym, I said to Jody, I was thinking this morning, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk in the morning now as soon as I get up. And I feel great about that. So I went in, we're about to film, we're getting dressed and all that. And I said, God, I'm feeling so good today. Jody said, can I talk to you a little bit? I'm having a really hard time keeping up with your highs and your lows. And it's true, I'm that way. I'd love to be positive and high and happy all the time. Wouldn't you? But it doesn't always work that way. And we're very open. So we wear our emotions on our sleeves.
And as a spouse or a partner or just a good friend, it's important to be honest when you're trying to ride the highs and lows with that person. And, my point to Mark wasn't that you shouldn't have the highs and lows. You should have them. You should feel them. You should reflect on them. You should write them down. You should work through them. All the things. It's when you bring the other person in, because Mark's now reaching a high and I was still trying to catch up on his low.
Well, you better catch up.
And now, me, who I'm a relatively even keel, happy person, now I'm trying to dig my way out of that. So, again, it's this idea of, don't avoid the emotional reflection that you need to have in order for you to really baseline this new identity.
And you have to discuss these openly with your spouse or your peers. And if you need professional help, you should get it.
Absolutely.
I talked to a guy last night who's really struggling with his relationship with his wife. He's retired, she isn't. He doesn't know what to do all day. He just bumbles around the house and he doesn't know what to do. He's getting himself into some trouble. And I said, are you really talking openly with your wife about that? He says, no, not really. I don't want to ruin her and dampen her feeling about work. She wants to work another 7 years. I said, well, you've got to start telling her how you feel, and you have to find a path through that.
Yeah.
You can't just pout around the house.
Yeah. This next one is a big one in having to find your identity. In our opinion, and it is just our opinion, you need to stop neglecting these 7 pillars of a fully lived discovery phase. And those are the 7 pillars we talk about all the time on our videos.
Yeah, and we're holding our first ever live on Zoom masterclass this September of 2025. And we'll probably do it every year. We're hoping that it's successful. But in there, we teach these 7 pillars. And one of them is strength. Strengthen your vitality and health. That's your physical wellness and your nutrition, building muscle, all of that, making sure you move. The second one is building emotional resilience, really working on your mind and your mindset so you're not frustrated and depressed and, thinking bad thoughts.
Right, absolutely. The voice inside your head, what do they say? It's the roommate that never pays rent.
Right. And then spiritual growth, that's a new pillar for us. We didn't have that 4 years ago, but that's a new journey that Jody and I are on, really digging deep into spirituality, asking some of those questions like, what happens when we die? Is there a higher power? Is there a God? For us, we believe in God for sure. For you, it might be another kind of higher power. But having that in your life is important, whatever that might be.
And the next couple are, deepening your meaningful connections. This is a phase of life where you have time to do that. So you should source out those meaningful connections and deepen those, and at the same time, nurture your intimacy and your partnership with your spouse or partner or most significant relationship in your life. Relationships are critical in this phase of life. You can't say any more about that.
The last 2 pillars are creating purpose and contribution, and we were talking about that in this video, having something that really gives you excitement every day, a reason to get up in the morning, and then really embracing growth and discovery during these years. I mean, I'm 68. I fully plan on living to 100. That's a long time to sit around and think about my old identity at my old work, all the things I used to do. That's not a good use of my time. So really learning and creating something new is really important. That's the 7th pillar. Not necessarily in any order. Everyone has a different order of these, but that is the 7th pillar.
And the last thing is, stop thinking that retirement means slowing down. In fact, we're hoping to remove the word retirement from everyone's vernacular and really have you see these as discovery years where you put on your explorer hat and you go out and you find and create new things for you for the next 20 or 30 years that really give you purpose, identity, meaningful connections, active lifestyle, and all the things.
Yeah, you want to adopt an explorer's mindset.
Yeah.
Just be curious. Be really curious about everything. Be curious about who you are. Be curious about who you want to become. Be curious about what you think you can do. Ask a lot of people, what do you think is my superpower? We're doing a whole episode just on that, finding your superpower, because it's important. You might not really know what you're good at, but all of your friends and family may. So it'll help you. Absolutely. So we had a couple questions. Hey, we wanted to let you know about something really special and unique that's happening. We know you've been watching us on YouTube and we appreciate that. For the first time ever, and maybe the last time ever, Jody and I are running a live masterclass in September of this year, 2025, Retirement Reset, from drift to discovery.
It starts September 8th and it'll go every Monday for 8 weeks. We'll go through our entire theory on retirement drift and work you through our 7 pillars that will help you eliminate the drift in your life.
There's a link below to a webinar that we did just this week explaining everything about it and showing you how you can sign up. We hope to see you in September. So here's the first one. Mark and Jody, how did you stop introducing yourselves by what you used to do? That's still how I lead every conversation. When you meet somebody new for the first time in this phase of life, it's not like when you're in a networking function in business and you're like, what do? Because you kind of want to build your business, you want to build your network. you don't really say who you are. You ask the other person questions. I just thought of this. You're so good at and telling our kids, be more interested than interesting. So really ask the other person a lot of questions. Don't ask what they do. Where do you guys live? Tell us a little bit about yourself. And we've had times when we've asked another couple sitting having coffee at a coffee shop, maybe 20 questions, and they didn't ask us any.
Yeah.
Which is
I
okay.
mean, that happens.
But we don't really lead with who we are.
No.
Many times we don't even bring it up.
Well, I think the gap between when we left work and there's a self-discovery, self-reflection time, like you, we probably spent the first couple months saying what we used to do.
Yeah.
And then we turned the corner and decided, we are going to introduce, I'm Jody Rollins. Like, for example, I've had an opportunity to do this probably a lot more than you do with all the groups that I join. But most recently over at our golf club, hi, I'm Jody Rollins. I've been playing golf for 3 years. Looking forward to playing with you today. Where do do you live here? Where do you live? Do you have children? Do you have grandchildren? And so you kind of, you deflect a little bit so it goes to the other person. And everybody likes talking about themselves. Not everybody likes asking questions. You know what
I'm sitting here thinking? I think the important change and the important step here is, again, even if you just retired, you just left your career, start meeting people on a different level, a level of just a human to human. Get to know them as a person, not as an old identity, because we get stuck with that.
Right.
Are you still working? No. Oh, what did you used to do? No, I don't think you should ask that anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
Just tell me about your family, all that. What's the next question?
Next question. How do I stop feeling guilty for enjoying a slow day? This is a good question for you. I keep thinking I should be doing something more productive.
Do you want me to answer?
Oh, yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
This is for me?
Yeah. I don't really have trouble with a slow day. I don't have that slow day guilt.
Well, we have purposeful slow days. So we'll have a day when, we did this more in Connecticut, I think, where it would be cold out, it would be rainy. We would say, you know what, let's just watch TV. And we hardly ever did that. But once in a while, we would just binge watch a show for 3 hours.
Yeah, but what about a typical slow day? That's an extreme based on weather. But you just have a day where, like, maybe you do 3 or 4 things in the morning and nothing is on your calendar for the afternoon.
I go batty.
You do. And
I'll read, I'll jump on the computer, I'll work a little bit with ChatGPT, and I'll create. I'm a creator. I need to build stuff. I was always building models as a kid and entered into model contests at Bob's Hobby Shop in Mamaroneck, New York. Too bad you didn't know me back then. I was a good model builder. But I need to create. So what was the question? Stop feeling guilty. You know what? Don't have a slow day. I mean, if you feel guilty and you're bored, do something. I think turn it around.
Feeling guilty and bored are two different things.
Just have a different mindset about it. Or just say, you know what? I'm going to have a slow day today. I'm going to have the best slow day I ever had in my life.
I actually think slow days are fine to have, especially in retirement, especially coming from a working mom with 6 kids for 38 years. I am happy to have a slow day, but I would actually prefer my slow day to be on a day that Mark's out of town.
Yeah.
And because otherwise I'm trying to have a slow day and you're buzzing around like, what should we do now? What do you want to do next? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? So I structure my slow days, like if Mark has a conference in Canada or has to be in a different location or is playing in a men's golf league, that to me is the day I strive for, to have my slow day, because I can do it the way I want to do it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Are we in trouble?
No.
Oh.
I don't think so.
Because you want me to lead more?
No.
Need more slow? You said a soft way of saying, can you travel more, please? I need more slow days. You mentioned redefining success for this season. What does that look like for you now? And how can I start that process for myself?
I love this because I do think that each season, and I mean actually the season, winter, spring, summer, and fall, I'm motivated differently in each season. Going from spring into summer, I am highly motivated as our chief fun officer for the family. From summer into fall, I'm highly motivated working on and organizing the business up and through the holidays. In the winter season, I'm much more motivated in working out, eating healthy, really starting to maintain and do research on new ways that I should be moving my body as I age. And then into spring, I'm more motivated to be outside. So my motivations are seasonal.
And the question was, you mentioned redefining success. That is your success, to have the results of all of that motivation and activity.
Well, I think the real success is I've finally acknowledged to myself that the same thing doesn't work for me in all 4 seasons. And I was like square peg in a round hole trying to make it work. I do try to eat healthy all the 4 seasons, try to move my body the 4 seasons, but there are nuances that get me excited for the next season.
I'm reading this question a little bit differently. You mentioned redefining success for this season. I think the person might mean the discovery phase, or, the old word, retirement. And, success, in the very beginning, we talked about success during our career looked like one thing. And success in this phase for us is our relationship is blossoming, and when he gets in trouble, we try to fix it. We've got the YouTube channel in this business that's part of our success. Our relationship with our kids, our relationship with our community, me meeting new friends, you meeting new friends. Those are all levels of success in the 7 pillars that we talked about early on. So I think that's, and the final is, how can I start that process for myself? Well, you can join our masterclass in September, or you can just look more of our videos around this topic and just start dreaming and thinking and journaling about what success does look like for you now. What turns you on? What makes you happy? What brings you joy? And start that process in a journal, and I think it will eventually reveal itself.
If you like this video,
you're going to love this next one too. This woman's father-in-law had just retired. He had plenty of money to do whatever it is he wanted to do. And they were totally taken aback. After 30 days of being retired, he committed suicide.
Oh.
And I read that comment and I was so distraught over it. And they had no idea. They still don't know if he had depression.